Something which I might agree with Sargon about. I never thought this day would come. But there is actually some evidence I've seen that certain people at Wizards of the Coast are racist. So, Magic the Gathering is racist. There's an awful lot of anti blackness and white supremacy in MTG. Wizards should be ashamed. They should be. As I said, this is probably something that I will agree with Carl about. The things I've read recently seem to indicate that yes, there is some issues with their attitudes towards black creators and black players. But somehow I suspect Carl will fuck this up. Now, as everything else here, I haven't watched this, so I don't know what he's actually going to say. But without any further ado, Carl, take it away.
So for anyone who doesn't know, I've been playing Magic the Gathering, a tactical collectible card game, for probably about 15 years, something like that. And I'm really invested in it. I still play the Magic the Gathering arena. I still really love it. I still follow it all. It's just been a long-term hobby of mine because I find it mentally stimulating. And
Nerd! No, I'm joking. I've been playing only a little bit longer than he has.
I like the world and I like the structure of the game. If you don't know anything about Magic the Gathering, as you can see, it's broadly represented by 5 different colours: green, red, blue, white, and black. And these represent, broadly speaking, thematically, different worldviews. The black worldview is very much focused around things like, necromancy, undead, the baddies from whatever Disney movies or horror films you can think of. The white are usually...
So I have a feeling he's going to misunderstand the color pie philosophy here. Probably not deliberately, but just in brief, white is about community, solidarity, and selflessness, but it can represent things like authoritarianism and that kind of blind community. Blue is all about the pursuit of knowledge, sometimes to its own detriment. The idea of self-improvement at all costs. Black is about selfishness and looking out for oneself. The opposite of white. Every man for himself. If you fail, someone else has to succeed, and for you to succeed, someone else has to fail. That kind of attitude. Red is all about emotion. Living in the moment, don't think, act, that kind of attitude. And I hope I'm being clear that none of these are explicitly good guy or bad guy colors. They all have good aspects and bad aspects. Green, the 5th and final color, is about nature and natural orders. Green is the color of destiny and things going as they ought to, as nature intended, not as they've altered by man, by intelligent forces or what have you. Nature taking its course. So in a nutshell, that's the 5 colors. I can already tell by the way he's describing them that he's going more for the white and blue are good guys, red and green is kind of intermediate, and red and black are bad guys. Which is a very simplistic way of looking at it. Not helped by the fact that they tend to make white and blue characters good guys and black and red characters bad guys. But they've actually reversed that a lot in recent times. Had more black and red good people and white and blue bad people. But there's nothing in the individual color philosophies which state that they're explicitly a good or positive color. The closest is white with its solidarity and altruism, but I mean, that's just a part of, good societies. There are also bad aspects to white. Like I said, authoritarianism would be white. blind devotion to a cause would be white, depending on the cause.
Usually focused around law and order, and then the blue around science and technology, red around passion and fury, and green around nature. And these are the themes that each of these styles of magic, as they're meant to be, have. Now, as you can see, this is already massively disconnected from real world politics, and I was quite surprised to learn that, in fact, magic.
Only because the colors themselves are ideological. The colors don't really have a political ideology. Like I said, both socialism and authoritarianism, like fascism, would be white colored ideologies. Karl Marx would be partially white, but so would Mussolini. Now Mussolini would also be black, whereas Marx would probably be like white blue. But like both of those ideologies are white, would be white in magic terms ideologies. So it's not that they're divorced from it, it's that they're specifically they don't specifically represent one ideology. They can represent multiple ideologies. And again, something like blue is just about knowledge, pursuit of knowledge for its own sake. So I'm getting a little too worked up over this. Continue, Carl.
Magic the Gathering, the trading card game, was actually a vehicle for massive amounts of racism and had been keeping black people down. like you can imagine, I'm having.
Okay, so now we're gonna get into the disagreement. So, what has been happening is that as the George Floyd rebellion has brought more people to kind of re-examine black issues, they've realized how little representation black people often get, particularly in media. And a number of people noticed that there are infinity billion white magic content creators, including not just streamers and video makers, but column writers. There's a pretty decent community for writing articles about magic, both strategy and other things about magic. So there are very, 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 very few black content creators in the magic community. And people kind of stood up and noticed, hey, this is kind of weird. And then it came out a couple of instances, like one where a black person who had written for other companies was trying to get on writing for Wizards. And they just kept getting told, oh, we're not hiring anyone right now. We don't have room. And meanwhile, WotC was hiring white people. Or a player who won a Grand Prix, which is a pretty decent competitive tournament, was snubbed for a mythic for an invitation to an invitation only tournament. And then when they kind of got on Twitter and were like, wow, kind of weird, or no, they emailed someone about it, and the person who emailed them back said, I had to look you up, and sorry, congratulations on winning GP whatever. Or no, it wasn't a GP, it was a Pro Tour, which is an even more prestigious event. Like, the argument is not necessarily that any one person is racist or that WotC has a climate of racism. It's that there's a kind of casual dismissal of black artists and content creators and players in the Wizards culture, and that this is something that needs to be addressed. And also, there are a number of cards from early in Magic that are kind of a problem. The most infamous one. Let's see. So we'll get to this in a moment. Let me. So I'm gonna show it. Yeah, yeah. Invoke prejudice with hoods and yeah. So it turns out Harold McNeil is actually a virulent racist, and he's done some other pretty fucking racist art. Uh, Not for Magic. Magic stopped using him pretty quickly. But this card is like that. Let's see if it'll show up or yeah. So this is what you see because they don't want people to see it. Now my opinion is that doing this just brings attention to it, and they should just, especially since apparently they've banned it everywhere anyway, that they should just stop. They just shouldn't talk about it. This is one of those things where they just shouldn't talk about it. Bringing attention to it probably does more harm than good. But there were 7 other cards that they banned. Cleanse. Yes, because it's destroy all black creatures. Let's see, is this? See if there's an older art. No, cleanse. So, yeah, because it's cleanse, destroy all black creatures. Yeah, even though in this case, black creatures is often refers to things like spiders and scorpions and zombies and the like. You know, it's still kind of yikesy. Stone throwing devils from the set explicitly based on the Arabian Nights. Pradesh gypsies, because gypsies. Jihad. Imprison, I'm guessing mostly from the art. And crusade, which Jihad and Crusade, I think, are acceptable. This art is a little. But. So, Wizards has made the decision uh, to remove these cards from their databases and apparently ban them, at least ban Invoke Prejudice everywhere. The other thing about Invoke Prejudice, though, every card in the Gatherer database has a unique ID. Obviously, they need to have a way of calling them that doesn't involve the name, because that can get way too unwieldy. Invoke Prejudice's ID was 1488. If you don't know what 1488 means, it's a white supremacist dog whistle that stands for the 14 words: we must secure a future for our white children. I don't know the exact 14 words, but it's something white supremacists say. And then 88, HH, Heil Hitler. So these 7 cards have been removed from the database. And yeah, here they talk about 14 words and Heil Hitler. So that is, and there's, the thing is, there's a lot of awkward art, especially from early Magic, because a lot of early Magic art was art that was purchased already done and not made to fit the card. But like, I think this is the one. Yeah. Faith shield is hammered out by the blows of unbelievers. With that, there's a lot of awkward art in early Magic. but not all of it is racist. And stuff like cleanse can be interpreted as racist. Stone throwing devils is definitely kind of racist. Even though it's a name from the Arabian Nights, it still was racist when it was penned. And, well, cleanse can and invoke prejudice is explicitly, at least the art is explicitly racist.
Plenty of black people playing Magic the Gathering. I had no idea that they were essentially on a plantation for this card game when they were playing it, because it was taking their money and, you know, they were just getting whipped in return. But today I logged in, I went to look up a card, and bam! What the hell is this?
Why were you looking up one of those cards, Carl? See, I was willing to come in here and listen to you and give you the benefit of the doubt, but you've already been super shitty and bad faith about it. Which card were you looking up? Because I'll tell you, none of those 7 cards are super popular. Mostly because they're really old and more or less out of print. But all those cards are... None of those cards... Most of those cards are popular only because they're kind of racist. The only reason I know Invoke Prejudice and its ID... I don't know the ID number of literally any other card in Gatherer. I don't know any other card's ID number, but I remember Invoke Prejudice because it's such an on-the-nose number. Because it's a trivia thing in the Magic the Gathering community. Maybe that says something about the Magic the Gathering community, that this is a trivia, no one really made a big stink about it, but we all kind of bought the idea that it was accidental. I don't know whether it actually was accidental, but whatever. The point is, if he's going to look up, he's play acting like, oh, what a shock, I came across this. It's been Discord on Twitter for a while now, Carl. For at least a few days. There have been a couple of open letters. The professor recently made an announcement on Facebook, and he probably did something on Twitter, that he's going to try to do better about getting people of color to be on the show. This is something that has popped up in the last week, but yeah. But no one is saying that black people are on a plantation. Usually when someone says that, like the Democratic plantation, like when people talk about black people being on the Democratic plantation, what they mean is that black people don't have any choice but to be a part of the Democratic establishment. That if they're not part of the Democrats, and they don't have a voice in politics. The problem is that it's not that black people are on the Magic plantation. We're all on the Magic plantation because there's not really any other game that gives the kind of rush, in my experience, that Magic gives. Like, Hearthstone is close, but there's a number of things that Hearthstone removed that are unique to Magic. So by that token, we're all on the Magic plantation. But the problem with black people is that they're shoved into a tiny corner where no one pays attention to them. And that's not good. But I'm guessing now he's going to try to spin it as WotC overreacting and being caving to SJW pressure. I actually wanted to come in here and agree with Carl. I wanted him to have a rational human opinion. That's my mistake. I forgot Carl is a sentient piece of shit. Barely sentient piece of shit.
We have removed this card image from our database due to its racist depiction, text, or combination thereof. Racism in any form is unacceptable and has no place in our games nor anywhere. It's like, what the... What are you talking about, Magic the Gathering? I thought it was okay to oppress black people with your cards. Like, all this time, I was just like, yeah, the casual racism in Magic the Gathering between the orcs and the humans has been fine, or the zombies and the Avens. You know, like all of these casual racist tropes. I mean, there's such a thing called a tribal deck because you build your own deck to play, and the tribal deck is an ethnostate. It's a monoracial.
Ha 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 ha. There's a difference between a card which explicitly depicts racist symbols like the basically the Ku Klux Klan member in Invoke Prejudice, just in a negative imagery. Negative like the color. Obviously it's a negative idea. And the idea of building a tribal deck where it's all one tribe. Tribe can also mean class in Magic the Gathering. Like, you can make a cleric deck, or a knight's deck, or a wizard's deck. Like, I know he's being dishonest here, because although the big tribes are things like fairies, merfolk, goblins, and zombies, there's also and humans, by the way. Humans are also a big tribe. There are also clerics, knights, soldiers, wizards. These are all also big tribes. So, nice try, Carl.
Deck, so you'd have all humans or all goblins. And man, I tell you what, I am pretty racist against goblins after Onslaught because it was insufferable. I can remember this so clearly.
No, it's okay to be racist against goblins after Onslaught. It was a bad time. No, that's legit. No, that's fair.
It was so insufferable. Just goblin pile drivers. Turn 3, you're getting unbelievable amounts of damage, and you've still got only 2 lands out on the pitch, on the field. So you're just like, Christ, I'm getting nailed. And then comes down, was it the Siege Gang Commander, and that's it. Just the goblins will roll you. And so I found myself kind of hating goblins. I to this day carry that prejudice.
I'm waiting for him to get to the point, because right now he's just strawmanning the arguments against WotC being racist. Because it's undoubtable that the cards in question carried some potentially racist, statements. I would argue about Crusade and Jihad. As I said, I think that I don't think those are as bad as some of the others, but it's their decision. It's their card game. They can decide to eliminate any cards they want. I mean, they do it quite regularly. Ban lists happen. They used to happen quarterly. Now they happen whenever they feel like it.
Whenever I see a goblin, I'm just like... Well, I mean, there are certain words that YouTube will deplatform me for if I say it, but we'll just call them the G words, shall we? And Magic the Gathering has been full of this, and it still is. I mean, currently in the current set, there's a card called the Icon of Ancestry. And it allows you to choose a race to make the master race of your side, and they all get a
Icon of Ancestry is 2 years old. No, I'm sorry, a year old, I believe. Yeah. So it came out last year. Almost a year ago exactly, because the core set 2020, core set 2021 is coming out. We're getting previews for it now. So he called it the latest set, but there's literally been 5 sets since that card came out? No. 3 sets, excuse me.
Bonus and the other ones don't, and I was like, God damn it. Once again...
Get to the point. Okay, I'm speeding Carl up. Enough with this straw man bullshit.
My satyrs are getting left out because I have to choose human. So when I can't remember the name of this one is, but whenever a creature of mine dies, I get to create a bunch of satyr tokens, but he's a human or a demigod or something. And so it's like, He's not even a human. And so I can't, there's no equality. It's deliberate racial preferencing within Magic the Gathering. So I was really pleased to see Wizards of the Coast banning a bunch of these cards. And this is what they've said. And this is, I mean, like, guys, we've really got to consider the oppression that Magic the Gathering has been putting on black people because of its card game. Just it's, white supremacy is baked.
This is really aggravating that he's using the 7 cards that were banned to completely ignore the other legitimate grievances that people have come up with. But what do you expect from Carl?
In the very structure of Magic the Gathering, the events of the past weeks and the ongoing conversation about how we can better support people of color have caused us to examine ourselves, our actions, and our inactions. We appreciate everyone helping us to recognize when we fall short. We could have been better, we can be better, and we will be better. And then they list the affected cards that are going to be taken out of the game. And I'm like, no one, surely, in Black Lives Matter or supporting Black Lives Matter, was at any point thinking, right, we're going to have to sit down with Wizards of the Coast, which is the company that owns Magic the Gathering.
Oh my god, no! You're absolutely right, Carl. No one expected to have to sit down with Wizards of the Coast. This is something they chose to do on their own after kind of being prodded by the community. This is a perfectly acceptable action for them to take because they did it on their own.
Gathering and have a talk to them about the white supremacy inherent in the card game. I mean, they weren't part of the conversation. So them going, well, there's this ongoing conversation, we want to jump into it. Why? What's it got to do with you? But anyway, all of the following cards are banned from tournament-sanctioned play. Their art will be removed from Wizards' official card index gatherer and replaced with the following statement, which we read out a minute ago. Isn't that amazing? I mean, this is one of them. It's called Invoke Prejudice. It's an enchantment, and it's ancient. Magic the Gathering has been going for a long time, and the format of the cards has broadly remained the same, but you can tell by the kind of style of the card that this is a particularly old one. And it's because it's got guys with robes and a hood, and it's about prejudice. You get it?
I like how he mentions that you can tell it's a particularly old card because of the style, even though someone who is completely ignorant of Magic's style would have no way of knowing that. But the year is right on it. Like, I know this is an old card because I've been playing Magic for 20 years and know that if it's got this kind of border, let alone this set symbol, or the text is that hard to read, or the text is this kind of long, then that's probably an old card. But again, they started the dates are on pretty much every card, starting like 3rd edition, what was called Unlimited, I'm pretty sure. Maybe it was revised, which was 4th edition. Well, no. So, very brief aside about Magic's numbering system. So they came out with limited edition Alpha, which is the very first set of Magic. Was not a complete set. There were 2 cards left off the printing sheet accidentally. And it had different shaped corners. It had more rounded corners than the ones you see here. Then they came out with limited edition Beta, which had the 2 cards that were accidentally left off from Alpha, printed a few other, made a few other corrections. Some art was, or some cards were printed with the wrong cost, some other minor changes like that, basically typos. And then they came out with Unlimited Edition. And then they came out with Revised Edition. And then they made 4th Edition. And they did 4th Edition, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. And then they decided to rebrand the core set to M10. Which actually came out in 2009, but... So, Magic's... And it's all because... the reason why M10 came out in 2009 was because it was going to be on the shelf for a year, and it's easier for larger companies like Walmart and the like to sell product, and they want to keep it on product if it has the current year or next year on it, than if it has last year on it. That's why M21 is coming out in July of 2020. Why M20 came out in June or July of 2019. Understand? So, brief aside about how WotC numbers things. And then they count alpha and beta as one set, as limited edition, and then so it's limited, unlimited, revised, and then fourth edition. But it can be a little confusing. But his assertion that anyone can tell that this is an old card, but fails to mention the date at the bottom is kind of funny to me.
It's about the KKK. If an opponent casts a summon spell that doesn't match the color of one of the creatures under your control, that spell is countered unless they pay an additional amount of mana. So the spell itself is racist. If you're not the same color as us, then you get targeted. And it's called Invoke Prejudice. My god, I don't know whoever made that.
If an opponent casts a summon spell that doesn't match the color of one of the creatures under... I mean, yes, obviously it's supposed to invoke... it's literally invoking racism, prejudice. This would be clever if it weren't kind of, well, in the parlance of my people, yikesy.
It's feeling terrible about themselves now, aren't they? I mean, there are a bunch of others. This is one. Imprison. Pay 1 each time target creature attempts to attack, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't talk about race, and the art doesn't... I mean, is that a black person wearing a mask? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have looked at that and assumed that was a black person. It just looks like some individual in terrible torment, which surely we're not going to just ascribe to black people. It's only black people who have been imprisoned, is it?
But they kind of have that kind of brown skin. Ugh. This is going to be torture, isn't it?
Imprisonment isn't just something we associate with black people in the normal, like, outside world. I don't walk past a black person and go, hey, why aren't you in prison? You know? Like, I mean, I don't work for Wizards of the Coast, obviously.
Also, the fact that there is an overpopulation problem with specifically black and brown people in prison. Yeah. I mean, again, this is one of those cards where the issue, like, Invoke Prejudice is pretty much wholly invoking racism. Like, the effect, not just the art, but the name and the effect, it all is a complete picture. This one is where it's just the art. The issue here is just the art.
So I've not had the conversations that they have. But...
And I know that because there are cards called Arrest that don't get this problem. That there are cards that are Blank Prison or Prison of the Blank that don't have this problem. The effect of the issue with this card is 100% the art. And again, it's kind of a brown person imprisoned.
I've had behind the scenes. But this one I found really interesting because it's called Pradesh Gypsies, so presumably there's a problem with them being gypsies. But I mean, there's nothing offensive about this. The art seems...
Gypsy is considered a rude word among the people referred to as gypsies. Gypsy is a catch-all term for a number of different organizations, not organizations, but a number of different, I think they're ethnicities in Europe. The biggest ones are the Roma or Romani, who kind of wander around. This is where the term gyp came from. If someone ever says, hey, that guy gypped me, they're doing a racism.
Interesting and respectable. The quote on it is, a mysterious people indeed. Their origins are as secret as their traditions. How is that disrespectful? Like, that seems cool to me.
Yeah, this one... I don't even think they're still typed gypsy. Let me double check that. Yeah, now they're type human nomad, so they're not even type gypsy. But yeah, this does feel a little baby out with the bathwater. But I'm not gonna fault WotC for overstepping here, given the other stuff. But the fact that Carl is over here like, you know, oh, I didn't realize the plantation black people were on playing Magic the Gathering. How dare they?
To me, you know, I mean, I wouldn't pay 3 mana for a 1/1 that had a 2 mana tap just to give a target creature a debuff. But I mean, that's still, I mean,
yeah, it's a garbage card on top of being somewhat racist.
Don't get me wrong, if you're going to ban it on that ground, fine. That could easily have been a 1 mana card, obviously. But again, as you can see, this is from an old set, it's from 6th edition, and power creep is a thing. But I still wouldn't play that for 1 mana, to be honest, but that's just that would make it a fair and balanced cost. But I don't think that's the reason. It's just because it is gypsies. So what they're doing now is taking a respectable depiction of this cultural group and deplatforming it. That, to me, I would have thought would have been a form of racism. Okay, what do I know? I'm the straight white man here, right? But then we get to this, and I was just like, what the... Stone-throwing devils. Pictured, appear to be devils, with summoned devils. Again, you can see this very old card.
Let me see here. Okay, so they are still devils. But again, this... So, the story of Arabian Nights, again, very briefly. Limited edition alpha came out. They thought they'd printed enough for 6 months, sold out in like 3 weeks. So they rushed to print limited edition beta, and they were like, hey, we also need some more new cards to print. So Richard Garfield, the man who invented Magic, it was a team effort, but he's the one who's most often attributed with it. He went home and was like, okay, I'm going to design an entire set. You know what's really fun? The Arabian Nights, 1001 Arabian Nights. So I'm going to design a whole set based off of the characters and events in that. And one of those events is these stone-throwing devils. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that's from. The fact that it's typed devils indicates that it may actually be referencing some demonic or devilish figures in the story. But the fact of the matter is, stone-throwing devils is a pejorative term that has been used to refer to primitive humans in real life. So again, this is like gypsies. It's kind of a problematic name. And again, given that it's a card that is 26 years old now, has never been reprinted, probably never will be because it's out of color pie, which means that it doesn't fit within the modern way the colors work. That they can just safely ban this so they don't even have to worry about the fact that, yes, it's technically devils, but that's not really an argument.
Summon devils, and then First Strike, which is the ability. Sometimes those with the most sin cast the first stones, 1/1. I mean, that's a perfectly functional card, so they didn't ban it for those reasons. But, like, is devil, in the Wizards of the Coast offices, a code word for... No, I'm really serious. Like, who the fuck...
Whoa! Did y'all catch that?
It's a perfectly functional card, so they didn't ban it for those reasons. But, like, is devil, in the Wizards of the Coast offices, a code word for... No, I'm really serious.
Did y'all catch that? Is devil a code word for... Now, I'm really curious. Woo! Slippery Carl.
Like, who the fuck considers devils to be black people, or stone throwing to be something that is only associated with black people? Like, that's such
a... Carl, your people, and by your people, I mean shitty, pretentious British people, invented the concept of the spear chucker trope. This was something that grew out of your own historical literature. Stone throwers are just another member of that trope. So don't play dumb. Well, maybe he's not really playing dumb.
Such a bizarre leap. How I honestly don't know what the rationale for this is, and I'm assuming that that's what it is because I just can't figure it out. Like, what? Why? These aren't referencing humans, are they? But then you've got Crusade. White creatures get +1/+1. Now, I can't think of a more perfect example of white supremacy in Magic the Gathering. Crusades as well. I mean, we all know that the Crusades were just literally Europeans, which is just white people, bad, and Muslims, which is apparently just brown people, or somehow Black Lives Matter, good. And therefore, white creatures, I mean, obviously racist. I don't know why they have a color white in Magic the Gathering. That seems pretty white supremacist. And the thing is that...
Yeah, again, there's a lot of things from... Like, Crusade was in Alpha. Jihad was in Arabian Nights. This symbol right here means that it was printed in Arabian Nights. Now, again, I'm not I don't super have a problem with Crusade and Jihad, but I will support WotC in their decision to do this. But yeah, this performative over the top shit Carl is doing is really aggravating. I don't know how much more of this I got.
You can't exactly go on a Jihad either, because Jihad is also a white supremacist card. All white creatures gain +2/+1, so Jihad's better than Crusade. I would have thought that would be progressive and diverse, but no, that's gone too. So, I mean, it's just white supremacy, guys. And of course, this was the worst. Cleanse. Destroy all black creatures.
So it's worth noting the difference between Crusade and Jihad. Crusade and Jihad. So Crusade is just flat, white creatures get +1/+1. Okay, all the time, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they're yours or not. Jihad, choose a color. So the point of Jihad, and this is one of the things that I love about Magic, about how they weave the flavor into the mechanics. As long as opponent has cards of this color in play, all white creatures gain +2/+1. Jihad must be discarded immediately if at any time opponent has no cards of this color in play. So this means if you're up against a red-green deck and you choose red and accidentally kill all of their red creatures, so they've only got green cards in play, and lands which produce mana are not colored, so it doesn't matter how many mountains they have in play, they aren't red, then the Jihad goes away. The idea is that we're fighting against this specific force, against this specific ideal. But when that ideal is defeated, then the Jihad goes away. Like, they're better when they're fighting, when they have this target to tilt at, but as soon as the target's away, the creatures get worse. So, and again, I'm not, like, I think if they had called this, like, maybe Holy War also would have gotten tagged, but if they'd called this, like, I don't, some other name that basically indicates that it's a mass fight against against a single opponent or an ideal like what Jihad represents, then I don't think anyone would have an issue with this. Same with Crusade, but I support WotC eliminating these like they have. It just makes things easier.
I would have thought that would be progressive and diverse, but no, that's gone too. So, I mean, it's just white supremacy, guys. And of course, this was the worst. Cleanse. Destroy all black creatures. Well, there we go. That's just Wizards of the Coast saying that black people need to be destroyed and that we can call this a cleansing. Whew. The clouds broke and the sun's rays burst forth. Each foul beast in its turn faltered and it was gone. My God, Wizards of the Coast. I didn't realize, because I didn't play during this while this set was in the rotation, so I've not seen this card before.
It's worth noting because Cleanse was originally from, according to the article we saw earlier, from Legends, the same set that Invoke Prejudice was from. Those are like the first, so Alpha, Arabian Nights, and Legends. I think Antiquities might have been in there between Arabian Nights and Legends, but those are 3 of the first 4 sets of Magic cards. So these are all cards from the very beginning of Magic the Gathering. So yeah, I do agree with WotC deciding to shit-can this card. Because it's too easy to kind of twist into a white supremacist meaning that destroying all the black things means we're cleansing them.
Before, and I didn't realize that Wizards of the Coast was literally unironically taken over by the KKK. But apparently that happened, and I have been spending, since I've come back to it, I've been spending my money on this hobby. I have been in support of racism at Wizards of the Coast. I never knew it. Is Mark Gottlieb still there? He's probably the chief racist. I enjoyed his columns the most. But then we've got like Nature's Revenge, destroy all black creatures, they can't be regenerated. This isn't even just white supremacy. This is now just anti-black.
Again, the issue was the juxtaposition of destroy all black creatures and calling the card cleanse. And it sucks that white supremacists are ruining it for us because that's a perfectly in-flavor way of a completely non-ideological description of how white, the color white in Magic would deal with destroying black creatures. They would view it as a cleanse because black is corruption and racism or whatever. So this is where white supremacy fucks it up for everyone else, because they take a perfectly cromulent card and throw it away, throw it in the dustbin, because it can be twisted into white supremacist terms. And yeah, this is a whole different idea of how the card functions. Also, this is not a real card made by WotC. This is a fake card made up by someone else.
Blackness, isn't it, Wizards of the Coast? You just have a prejudice against black, which happens to be my favourite colour, because I believe that Black Lives Matter in Magic the Gathering Wizards of the Coast. Destroy all non-white creatures. Now, it gets even more racist. Like, I just can't get over this, Wizards. How could you have thought it'd be appropriate?
Okay, we're fucking done here. He's just gonna laugh about the idea that cleanse was problematic by showing all the ways that they've had white be insular, and yeah, and completely ignoring the fact that, again, none of the colors are explicitly good guys or bad guys, and none of them are put up as better than the others. The fact of the matter is that white is about solidarity and working together and that community aspect and all that good stuff. So it makes sense that there would be a destroy all. And also, the magic colors work off of an enemy and ally system where there's each color has 2 enemies and 2 allies. And if you look, no, not backgrounds, I just want the back. So if you look at the back of a magic card, you can see, here's the 5 colors. So each color that's adjacent to a given color are its allies, and the opposites are its enemies. So if you look here, white has green and blue adjacent, so those are its allies, which means that they share things in common with them. And red and black are its enemies. So yes, white would get destroy target, or destroy all black creatures. It's a white effect. Destroy all non-white, that's a white effect. But because white and black are also the English words for races, it creates all sorts of weird things. Anyway, Carl is an idiot who wants to make light of an actual real issue. And that's fun. I love to see that. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to like, share, and leave a comment because it helps me. Subscribe and ring that bell to help you. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.